Here follows an extract from my book Letters from the Broom Cupboard, available from Amazon. Dear reader, I really dislike going to the hairdressers. I'm led to believe that this isn't the usual kind of statement made by a woman. I don't particularly dislike actually having my hair cut and styled, but I don't like the constant chatter and questions from a relative stranger who should be giving her undivided attention to the scissors she is wielding next to my ears. I also don't appreciate having to pay through the nose for enduring the noise and stress that I have to undergo for a basic trim. My problem is solved now that I've got a wonderful arrangement with Linda, who is a pupil of mine and is fortuitously also a mobile hairdresser. We tend to operate a swap where I exchange lessons for a regular trim. I think I'd much prefer to live in a cashless economy akin to the barter system of old. So long as both parties are satisfied with the trade and the taxman still gets his dues, then all is well. I don't suppose it's workable as a long-term economy system, but at least I get my hair cut without having to endure the third degree. I don't mind putting the kettle on and chatting to Linda as she brushes and chops. At least I know her and she knows me. Maybe if you went to the same salon for years and your hairdresser became your friend, it would be quite a pleasant exchange. It's the whole getting to know you in a prescribed setting that I can't abide. You're suddenly confronted with the prospect of having to spend a good hour with somebody you've never met before, and it's usual for people to want to fill that time with chit-chat. I'd be more than happy to spend that time in total silence, but I gather that this isn't socially acceptable. And so, the usual conversation instigator is employed. "What do you do for a living?" asked the enthusiastic stylist. Initially my hackles rise as I dislike the fact that we are assessed by our mode of employment. It's not always an accurate indicator of who we are. When the children were young, all of my time was spent cleaning up various types of mess, and while I'd be the first to admit that this is of prime importance, it hardly explains who I am. Nevertheless, I do realise that a job description can give a handle on the essence of who you are as a person. It's a beginning, but this is the crux of my problem. "I'm a piano and woodwind tutor," I reply. This is usually greeted by a shrill ascending and descending glissando, followed by knowing looks from the stylists. I honestly don't say this kind of thing for effect. I don't pretend to any moral high ground, it's just that I'm useless at anything else. I can guarantee that the next comment will be something along the lines of, "My kid has a keyboard." By now I'm resigned to the conversation veering off out of my control on a totally incorrect tangent, and all of my purest sensibilities start to sound the alarm. I do not play the electronic keyboard. I do not play the electronic organ or roll out the barrel, and the latest song by Adele is not in my repertoire. I guess I should be grateful now, as an entirely separate conversation is going on above my head, in every sense of the word. And in reality, I'm free to sit quietly and hope that, as the stylists chat, my ears remain intact. Unfortunately, I find that I still can't relax. Instead, I feel myself becoming more and more stressed at being totally misunderstood and misrepresented. Even so, this is the best case scenario. The topic can go two ways, and there is a second route that the conversation can take. Instead of the shrill glissando, there now follows a disapproving pause before tight-lipped clipping continues as the stylists launch into a diatribe of their various bad experiences with music teachers at school. Whilst I freely admit that we do seem to attract a few mutants, I don't appreciate being automatically bracketed alongside these few unpleasant specimens, nor is this exclusively applicable to music teachers. I could argue that all PE teachers are cruel and have serious anger management issues. I don't feel inclined to perpetuate such rumours, and I also know that it's usually the familiar story of the few spoiling it for the many. I know that my friend May also has the same trouble when she needs a haircut. She recently went to a new salon, it being the only one that could find time to give her a trim before she went away on holiday. The stylist was chatting to her colleague, full of news about her son's new electric keyboard, and in an attempt to be friendly, the hairdresser turned off the dryer to ask, "Are you musical?" Rather than sit with wet hair and unleash the whole cavalcade, May, in her wisdom, simply replied, "No." After that, she was free to sit relatively quietly with a minimum of ums and ahs at specified intervals, whilst not getting bound up in unwanted interest in her mode of occupation. I do get tired of being bound by stereotype, and I've a short fuse once the bandwagon gets rolling on full momentum. Unfortunately, I did once misread a whole social situation at a friend's 40th birthday party. Upon joining the guests over drinks in the kitchen, our host introduced me to his friend. "Terry, this is Sharon, she's a piano teacher." At this point, I usually die quietly inside and wait to see which route the conversation will follow, just as in the hairdressers. Terry is a massive bodybuilder and a biker. Removing the pint from his lips, he replied with a stock retort and, with a knowing twinkle in his eye, nodded sagely to his companions. "I've always wanted to play the piano. It's something I'd really like to do. I wish I'd learned." I've spent my whole life having fun poked at my choice of pastime, or it can sometimes feel that way. All those years at high school came flooding back to me. The trendy, popular guys scoffing in sarcastic tones. Maybe my reaction was hormonal, a result of the midlife crisis. It was a 40th birthday party after all. But something inside snapped. Instead of listening meekly until he'd finished with his clever derision, as innumerable times before, I calmly laid down my wine glass and made my comeback. "It's not funny, you know. I've spent my whole life listening to comments from people like you. I can honestly tell you that I've just about had enough. Tolerance is a one-way street, I find, when you don't want to follow the crowd. Just tell me, what key is this song we're listening to in? You can't, can you? I could if I was interested enough to try. Instead, because I prefer to play Mozart instead of Motorhead, you think it's cause for criticism. If you think you can play, come and find out. It's tougher than you think." Poor Terry looked genuinely upset and stammered, "I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to offend you. I really do wish I could play. I've always regretted not being able to. I'm quite jealous of the fact that you're musical. I'd love to play Mozart, but I've no idea where to even start." I could have died. I felt thoroughly ashamed of myself, and my poor husband, standing next to me during the whole catastrophe, looked pretty ashamed of me too. I took a large gulp from the wine glass I'd relinquished and gave Terry a most heartfelt apology. In this instance, who was it who was prejudiced, basing assumptions of character on first impressions? Me. After profuse apologies and Terry's kind acceptance of my most sincere regret at my outburst, we spent the evening chatting away like old friends, and he has been my most long-standing pupil. He's become a good family friend, and he has watched my family grow week by week for more than a decade. I was wrong to assume that a muscle-bound biker wouldn't really be interested in the study of classical music. If I take a step back and look at myself, as I am today rather than what I was as a schoolgirl, I imagine that people could say the same about me. May and I regularly patronise the same pub, and we are known and welcomed there. David and I once visited this same pub to have a meal after a long day riding on the motorbike. Nobody recognised me in my bike gear, and we were treated to frosty stares as we found a vacant table. The only thing that was different about me compared to previous visits was my jacket and bike helmet. During the summer holidays, I often skid into an out-of-term lesson straight from a trip on the motorbike, and if the pupil is a few minutes early, they have to wait while I clamber out of leather bike gear before I can give my attention to Grieg or Schumann. There's no such thing as normal, and it served me right. I'm just relieved that Terry was as forgiving as he was. It's more than I deserved. Gratefully yours. For the full collection of Letters from the Broom Cupboard, available from Amazon in paperback or as an ebook, follow the links in the cards in the description box or find details on my website at sharonbill.com. Thanks for listening.